Welcome back once again. This is Rod Powell. You're listening to You Should Get a License, the podcast edition, your number one source for information, education, inspiration on the most underrated opportunity in business today. That is a career in the insurance industry, the financial services industry. Really excited about the guest that we have today because he's really doing something that's revolutionary and evolutionary, in this industry, as we move forward into the future. And someone who I met recently and got a chance to talk to, but just want to give you a little bit of background because I'm really excited about the conversation. Mr. Joshua Morey, he's a chairperson of Origin Insurance Group, based in San Mateo, California. He's also president of the J. Morey Company. And really what Origin does is amplify the voice of diverse communities throughout America by providing resources, services, and perpetuating planning for independent agents and brokers from diverse backgrounds. So they have offices in Hawaii, California, and also Massachusetts, and represent really a wide variety of personal, business, and specialty insurance from 40 plus national and international carriers. In addition, Joshua serves on many boards that serve the Japanese community. He serves on InsurTech boards. He was actually recently featured in the Independent Insurance Agents and Brokers of America magazine. He was actually on the cover. So he's kind of a big deal. He's also the co-founder of Asians in Insurance podcast and a founding board member of the newly formed Asian American Insurance Network. And just a great guy. He's a father. He's a husband. He has 3 kids. He looks like he's 25. So I'm trying to figure out when he started. But just really excited to have this conversation. Mr. Joshua Morey, welcome to You Should Get a License. How you doing, Joshua?
Wow, what an intro. I did all that? No, it's all about who you surround yourself with, and really a lot of gratitude for all who came before me, all who are working with me now, and the communities that we serve. So I'm just so grateful to be on this podcast with you, and it's great to see your face.
Absolutely. You too, man. You too. We met, and I was really just kind of impacted by our conversation, and I want to go into some of the details of that for our audience here. But first, just to start off, as I mentioned, with our platform, it really is about educating people about the different aspects of this industry. There's a lot of different market segments. There's a lot of different things that people do. So if you could just share a little bit about, Origin, about your agency and really what you guys specialize in and what you do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, well, I mean, insurance, man, it's the greatest industry created to mankind, right? And so it's recession-proof, it's pandemic-proof, and really it's a service industry. So, if we can be of good service to not only our clients, but our communities, we'll have value. And so, yeah, really kind of my story starts. And when I tell my story, I have to go way back. So late 1800s, my great grandfather immigrated from Japan. And you'll see why I tell this story. But he was one of the first business owners in Little Tokyo. It's based in Los Angeles, a Japanese American community. And he built one of the largest businesses called the Asia Company at the turn of the century. So going into the early 1900s to the 1940s. And the Asia Company, we owned a ton of land in the community. We were a very prosperous business. And then World War II hit. And, during that time, the Japanese were seen as a threat to America. And we were put they call them internment camps. Our community calls them concentration camps. We were given a very short amount of time to take 2 bags. And we had to spend 2 years in these concentration camps throughout America. And, during that time, everything that my great grandfather had built up was lost. He couldn't pay the mortgages on the properties of the land. He couldn't pay any of the business expenses. And so, he lost everything. We lost a generation of progress during that time. And I share that story because, my great grandfather and my family and our community hates talking about it, but it's an important part of our history because I can only stand here today from the community that went before me. And it was only after the war that we came back and our whole community came back to nothing, absolutely nothing. Had to rebuild everything again. And we all supported each other. Me supported my grandfather and great grandfather in trying to rebuild their business. It was tough. It was at that point that my grandfather had a great friend in insurance. And so he got into insurance, and my father and my uncles followed my grandfather. And we started our firm, the J. Morey Company, in 1980. in Little Tokyo, Los Angeles, and then, had the opportunity to continue to grow. And, it's, fast forward almost 40 years later, myself and some of our younger partners bought out my dad and uncles in the past 3 years. And, I think the pandemic, what it was great for us was it gave us kind of a reflection point is, okay, we have another opportunity here to rethink the way that we do business and what would be meaningful to me, Josh, like 30 years from now when I walk away from my career. And it had nothing to do with how much money I made or how many people respected me. And as they really nailed into it, did I have a role in perpetuating the future of my minority community who has gotten me to this point where I can stand today and make decisions like that? And that's where Origin was born. The whole platform of Origin was remember where you come from, create a new future. And that's what we do. We care about community, we care about diversity, we care about the legacies within all of our, and bigger than just Japanese communities now, within all of our diverse communities in America, we have different stories, but similar stories. And so that's, where we've gone in Origin now. We're just, we're trying to use insurance as the platform to continue on the legacies of our diverse communities.
Absolutely. Isn't it amazing how, you talked about, your grandfather, coming to the country, starting his business, growing it, then during World War II, really losing everything, coming back, finding, this industry, the insurance industry, leveraging opportunities there to reposition, the success of the family. And now that has sustained even over multiple generations. I wanted to just point out how amazing it is that, and I wanted to get your take on it, how this industry can be a catalyst and a vehicle for so many other things, because now you're evolving it into the next part of that legacy, right? And even though insurance is kind of the foundation of it, it's really much, much bigger than that. There's two parts to this question. The first is, why don't more people know that this industry is so powerful, in your opinion, from a career path? The second is, why isn't it shared that this can be a vehicle for the other things that people want to do to impact the world as well?
Oh man. Okay. So the first part of that question is, why don't people know about this as a viable industry to go into? It's interesting because in Japan, and I would say in the UK or London too, a lot of people that graduate from the best universities go into insurance. So if you go to the University of Tokyo and you get a job at Mitsui Sumitomo or Tokyo Marine or Sampo, you made it, right? And there's this, and I think because in those cultures, maybe that the insurance industry is fully embraced too, as this is a great job. And I think here in America or in the West, I don't think we've done a great job at really telling the story of what the true opportunities are, or even the history or the value of insurance and the stability of the industry. So, I mean, that's across the board. I think specifically for our minority or diverse communities, I feel like there hasn't been great efforts put into awareness within schools, within at job fairs to really promote insurance. And I'm one of the very few that, at least in our community, that actually went into insurance. So I think that's partly an answer to your first question. And then the second question was, say it again.
The second part of the question. The second question was, in addition to the fact that people aren't necessarily looking at it as a viable career for you, and I do remember you sharing with me that in Japan, like, hey, that's the pinnacle, right? Like this is the industry that you want to be in, and here it's kind of the opposite. But one of the things that I think is very, very important that you had mentioned is that, hey, insurance has been the foundation. Even with your grandfather, insurance is the foundation, but there's still other things that you can branch off and build and grow into. Right. So the question was, how come that information isn't exposed as much, or why aren't people, looking at this as a way, even people who are in the industry, why isn't it commonplace to say, hey, yo, I know I have this insurance foundation and I'm doing this and I got this license, but I actually could utilize this to go into real estate. I could utilize it to start a nonprofit, to forward an initiative that I care about.
Yeah.
Why isn't that a part of the discussion?
In a lot of ways, insurance is very transactional. And so we bind a policy. If someone needs to add a car, we add a car into the policy. If someone needs to, adjust their payroll for workers' comp, then we can do that. And it is very transactional to an extent. But I think the beauty within insurance is we get to know so many industries because we insure a lot of different types of people, a lot of different types of businesses. And so we get to learn a lot and make these connections. Now, you can keep those connections and those relationships as transactional, or you could also leverage those relationships and those transactions as, in whatever you want it to be. What, like you said, it could be, hey, you can start a real estate vertical to be able to continue to service your client, or even within financial services, you still have a captive audience. You can, if they trust you, you can offer more. I think the pivot that I took was, hey, we know so many people and so many businesses. Why not we try to do something for the broader community as a whole? Right. And we're trying to, we're in the midst of creating a foundation for our company too. So that can be really the arm of Origin Giving. And then how do we do that in the best way? And, we're thinking about these giving circles where you're not only you giving money to organizations, but you're creating these circles that are looking for ways to also actively get involved while also giving money. And so I just don't think it's really been shown as a model for us to be able to do all these other things when we've just been this transactional insurance agent, right?